So we want to welcome you to Wellness Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. I feel like for some of us, we've been together almost every week for the last couple of weeks, and some of you are just joining. My name is Leora. I'm the School Mental Health Lead for the Pacific Southwest MHTTC. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a second, but I want to go through a couple tech things so that we can get basic needs checked and then move into deeper reflection and learning. The first is that we will be muted the whole time today until the end, and then we'll unmute and you can say hi and check in. And we're really going to rely on that chat box a lot. So if you do not want to be on video or cannot be on video, that's all good. We like the video because we like to see you and it makes me feel I'm more connected, but we know that there's lots of restraints happening, and so we want to respect all of your needs. And then a couple other things. One is that you should have gotten an email with the PowerPoint deck and a handout before this. And if you don't have that, that's also okay. We're going to resend it to you, so you'll get it one more time after this. And then I'm really going to encourage everyone as much as possible to fill out the survey link that goes out to you. I know it's 5 minutes and it's like it's a survey, but it really helps us get feedback to continue these. And also helps us continue our funding. So I just wanted to note that. And again, if you're just joining us, if you can do as your colleagues have done, like Claudia, and put your name and your role in the chat box, that would be really helpful. So welcome. We've got folks from all across the country. We've got folks, I saw Kentucky, Florida, Texas, Alaska, lots of Californians in the house. We, Michelle, Judy, and myself, we're all based in Los Angeles-esque, California. So we're just wishing you a good afternoon from Southern California. Okay, great. So we're going to move forward. Oh, thank you, Michelle. So if you are new to, oh, actually, I'm doing that. Am I doing that? I'm doing that. Great. If you're new to Zoom, which at this point in our lives, I would be really amazed and appreciative if you were able to get through life without so much Zoom. But if you're new to Zoom or just need a reminder, a couple different pieces. Oh, hi, Sharon. It's good to see some old Project Aware colleagues from Alaska in the house. So a couple Zoom housekeeping pieces. One is that at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat function. If you click that, you'll be able to see all of the conversation. We're really going to rely on that. There's also at the very top of your screen, there should be a drop down that says view option. I like a full screen. Some people like half screen, whatever you need to do. I'm going to move it forward. And again, at the bottom is the chat box. You can also click on where it says participants, and you'll be able to see yourself and everyone else as I am doing, so I get to see who's coming up. And that's a way for you also to click on the more drop-down button, and that should give you, again, the opportunity to rename yourself so that you can, like some other colleagues have done, put where you are and who you are and how you're feeling as a part of your name. So all that to say, I just talked about that, the more rename, and then actually we're just going to move forward from that, Michelle, and start here. Cool. Okay. So welcome. Wellness Wednesday, connect, reflect, and support. My name is Leora, as you've heard. Oh, hi, Kat, Alexander. It's so good to see so many familiar names. We are so pleased to be able to provide these every week with our partners at the Meaning Makers Collective, Michelle and Judy, co-founders. I'm going to share a little bit about who we are as a center, and then we're going to be able to do some work. And part of the work that I want to name is that many of us are, the purpose of these sessions is that many of us are involved in so much producing, right? In this, not only always, but also in this moment. We're having to merge and create and innovate and think and react and respond. Part of what we wanted to do as an offering is create space that's just for you. We're not asking you to do something for someone else. We're not asking you to do really anything except to just be present in where you are in this moment, and how luxurious as a practice. So we're grateful to be taking a collective breath with all of you today. So Michelle, if you want to move forward. We are funded by SAMHSA, so while this is supported by SAMHSA, it doesn't necessarily reflect SAMHSA's views, although I'm sure that SAMHSA would appreciate these sessions. Let's move forward. Lots of tiny font, but all I want to note is that if you are new to our model, the SAMHSA has 10 regional mental health technology transfer centers. We are the orange squares. There's also addiction technology transfer centers and prevention technology transfer centers. And we are a national model. We're open to anyone, so you don't need to be part of a Project Aware grant or part of a Safe Schools Healthy Students or part of PBIS. It's really open to all, and every region has their own concentration. We're the Pacific Southwest, so we support the U.S. Pacific Islands, California, Hawaii, lots of Hawaiians on the call today, Nevada and Arizona, and we also collaborate with all of our colleague MHEDCs. So for those of you from Florida and Hawaii and Kentucky, nope, take back Hawaii, from Florida and Alaska and Kentucky, for example, even though you're not part of our region specifically, we still are able to support you, and we're really glad that you're here. I want to do 2 quick pointers about our region specific. So I'm Leora, and I'm the school mental health lead for our region. We have 2 concentrations in our region. One is school mental health literacy and leadership. So really creating and fostering bilingualism between educators and school mental health professionals, and seeing how we can work as systems to create interdependency and interconnectedness. And then the second track is on school crisis readiness, response, recovery, and renewal. And we partner with the National Center for School Crisis and Bereavement to support you in your leadership, in your grief navigation leadership. The other piece that of course is coming up is that we were asked by SAMHSA to provide COVID-19 specific offerings, of which this is a part. So I just wanted to name those 3 things. Let's move. Yep, did that. So this is the MHEGCs. You'll get this all. Yep, did that too. Moving forward. Okay, cool. Thanks. So the way that this hour has been structured, hi Adrienne, it's good to see all the new faces. The way that this has been structured is that we're going to do a welcome and introduction. Michelle and Judy will offer some resourcing. We're going to really focus on settling as self-care. And I want to be really clear that we believe that self-care is not a method to keep us placated or quiet in our suffering, but is actually to create more resources so that we'll be able to not only react, but respond with thoughtfulness, intention, and sustainability, because this work is hard and it's a long run, not just in the now, but in the always. So I'm going to be really clear about that. And then we'll move into some integration, reflection, and close. So let's move forward. Cool. Okay. So I wanted to offer this particular reading to ground us today before I hand it to Michelle and to Judy. And the reading is the following. It's from our dear teacher, Fred Rogers. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us know that we're not alone. So I want to recognize that part of these Wellness Wednesdays is actually to create the humanity and to name so that we can actually support and manage and create a larger feeling of affirmation and witnessing in this time that might feel really alone and overwhelming, and to remind us that we have the resources within ourselves and within each other in order to not just cope and manage, but also to provide access to healing. So with that, I'm going to pass it to our dear colleagues, Michelle and Judy at the Meaning Makers Collective.
Hi everyone, I'm Judy. Good to be here. Can you hear me, Michelle, Leora, anyone that's there? Thumbs up? All right, great. I do have a dog, so just in case he starts getting a little wild, hopefully just bear with me a little bit if he starts barking. Good to be here. Good to be back. Good to see some of you returning from the last couple of days. I'm Judy. I'm one of the co-founders of the Meaning Makers Collective. Along with Michelle, we've been in the work of schools and education for quite a long time. And currently we're in this project of really providing some services and resources to schools and organizations around honoring the people that work in schools and honoring employee well-being and really centering the work of how do we create cultures of care in schools that are really putting forward the need to center kind of our needs and the needs of those that we serve, and not just be here to serve the students and the populations and the groups we're serving, but how do we serve ourselves and create cultures where we care about each other. And so we do that through professional development and workshops and facilitations of rituals and gatherings, including coaching. We do kind of like social emotional coaching for teachers, for groups of teachers, and for principals and administrators at schools. And yeah, we're excited to do it. And you'll see here on the screen, we've partnered up with different people that we've worked with in the past. And so we really wanted to highlight our partners here, both here in California, but also kind of across the United States with the AFT. So good to be here. Mm-hmm. You're on mute, Michelle.
Hi, I'll just take a moment. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just take a moment to say hi. For those of you coming back, thanks for coming back. And for the new people, it's great to meet you. Judy pretty much covered it all, but just wanted to really emphasize that we're really, I was going to say enjoying, but also just adapting to the current circumstances and moving a lot of our work online and virtually. So we just want you all to know that we are providing services like this and our other services virtually. So if you're interested, you'll see our contact information at the end. You're welcome to get in touch with us with any questions. And I'll pass it back to you, Judy.
Great, thank you. And I also just added our webpage. Should you want to take a look a little bit more about the details, please visit us there. All right, so our purpose for today is really to slow down, to listen to our bodies, and to try to connect with each other in mindful ways. We know that so much has happened from last Wednesday to now. I mean, so much can happen between this morning and this moment. So really today our intention is that we can just slow down a little bit and connect to ourselves and connect to each other in this work across the country, as we can see here in the chat box. Also to like really lift up what Leora said earlier around self-care and, practicing, staying curious about new practices that can really help us with caring for ourselves and therefore being better able to care for others. And to just surface different needs that might be around in our field right now. And so at the end, there will be room for talking about resources or supports that we have and also that you might need. Great. All right, and if you were here with us the last couple of times, we did a roll call just kind of to do a little bit more dynamic engagement with the chat box around your role. But today what we're going to try is I'm going to ask you if you've been with us before to put a certain symbol on the chat box to see who's been here before, okay? So we're going to give this a try. So for example, if you were here for our first Wellness Day in the month, Wellness Wednesday, you shaking your head.
If this is your first Wellness Wednesday, if this is the first time you're joining us. Yeah.
Okay. So if this is your first Wellness Wednesday, it's the first time that you meet us and see us, can you put a hashtag on the chat box? Okay, so I see Linda, first time, Olivia and Elisa, Deanne, Tara, Sonia, Shauna. All right. Okay, it's going really fast. Well, welcome. Great, welcome. And if this is your second time with us, can you put a percentage sign there? All right, well, welcome back. Xochitl and Adrian and Claudia, Amber, Megan. Okay. And if this is your third Wellness Wednesday, can you put a money sign there? All right, Samantha, welcome back, and Kelly and Christina and Rocio. Great. Okay. Well, welcome. I think what you might notice, especially if you're returning, is that a lot of the work and the engagement that we have together during this time is quite similar, and we're sharing some practices that might be useful. And you'll also, you'll see that it's common there. And if you're new, then welcome, and we'll move along today. And again, if you have any questions as we're going along or a comment, feel free to use that chat box there. Okay, that's what it's there for. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, Cynthia. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump in a little bit into the work. Before kind of just exploring the text that's on this on this slide right now, I wanted to bring up this kind of practice that I've done before with our friends and partners at the Teaching Well out of the Bay Area in Oakland. They do this thing that it's called releasing background apps as a way to kind of get grounded in the moment. And it's a practice that they use a lot with like students and teachers when you're convening a meeting or you just want to kind of ground into this moment. And it's, if you're familiar or you have a smartphone, you'll notice that when a lot of things are open, a lot of applications are open on your phone, that it's quite taxing on your phone. You know, your energy might kind of be depleting. And so the same is true maybe if you're on a computer screen and you have a bunch of windows open or you just have a lot of files, it could be really taxing on your computer. And so the idea of releasing background apps is that I'm inviting you for this moment and for the next maybe 20 minutes, if you could just take a moment to release all the different things that have been open all day today, you know, whether it was maybe a meeting that you had this morning or something that's going on with the child or your partner at home or all the emails that you might be having. So if everything's up, all the to-dos, all that I need to return to, if you could just wipe those or swipe those up or away from your kind of mind and consciousness for just a moment as a way to kind of just be here, to really take this moment, which is quite short, but for yourself, and to stay in a place of curiosity of like what might come when I can take a moment to settle down and check in with myself. And so we're going to be doing a couple of activities that can help with that. And so what the context or really the words that are here on this slide is just to offer that this is a practice, that well-being or wellness is something that really comes from an understanding and practices of our ancestry and our intuitive kind of belonging, that you are your own really, wisdom holder of what it means for you to be well and to be safe, and that it's constantly changing and that it's a practice and that it's not no kind of destination that we're going to arrive to, and that therefore it's going to feel different for different bodies with different experiences depending on that kind of collective experience or that ancestral experience that you've been a part of. And so what we're hoping to really do is to provide kind of like a framing around well-being that can be inclusive of different experiences in this current moment. And with that kind of really to stay open or in a place of curiosity to really ask for and receive kind of the resources necessary to enrich and sustain your lives in this moment. So I want to kind of name that and leave it there as a way of us exploring the next couple of activities.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move into our first offering for today. And it's really going to build off that last sentence in the definition that we're using to think about wellness, really building off this concept of resources. Before we dive into that, I want to bring back this framework that we've worked with the past few Wednesdays, just to highlight that as we think about our wellness, recognizing that our wellness or our sense of wellness and safety is dynamic, always, as Leora says, always and especially now. And this concept of the window of tolerance really helps us to build, it's really a tool to help build self-awareness around what's going on in our bodies and in our nervous systems at any given time. So just taking a moment, if you've seen this before, to reflect on what your personal window of tolerance might be feeling like right now. Keeping in mind that our window of tolerance can shift throughout our lives. Sometimes it can feel really wide, like we have a lot of space. We're available. We can think and feel at the same time. There's a lot of space for calm, responsiveness. But also really honoring that in circumstances that are stressful, whether they're circumstances that are currently happening to us or things that have happened to us in the past, our system has a very intelligent way of responding to keep us safe. And so what you'll see at the top is one form of that response, what we might know as fight or flight, where we feel hyper-aroused or vigilant or maybe even some like anger, aggression type feelings. Really honoring that there are circumstances in which those responses are absolutely right and absolutely necessary. And then Also noticing the other form of stress response, the hypoarousal down at the bottom, where we might feel shut down or flat or numb. And really honoring that there are circumstances where those responses are absolutely right and make sense. So as we begin to think about what it means to come back into or to remain in our window of tolerance, or even just to build an awareness of what that is, really doing that with a lot of respect for the many different responses that our bodies have to help keep us safe. And so building upon and increasing and expanding that sense of safety is really what we're hoping to contribute to with what we're doing here today. So with that, as we move forward, maybe you're thinking about your own window of tolerance, or where you might find yourself in this graphic. And I'll invite you to just hold that awareness and see if anything shifts as we move through our time today. All right, so today we're going to talk a bit about resourcing. And this word resource might be really familiar, probably is really familiar to most of us in other contexts. In this context today, we're using it as a verb, as something that we can do, that we do already. Resourcing is a way to help stabilize and balance our minds and our bodies when we're experiencing distress. And I really want to emphasize that word of stabilizing. Everything we're offering here today may be practices that bring open a lot of access to healing, but really our intention is to help find stability, and for each person to find a little more stability, whatever that feels like for you. So resourcing can help us establish a sense of emotional safety, really honoring those times where our physical safety is at risk, that our body might take over, and that those responses are great for that moment, and that this practice of resourcing is something that can be used as we move into spaces where we might want to create a little more emotional safety. It can expand our capacity to be a resource for others, this notion of pouring from an empty cup when we're often serving or helping others, and resourcing really being a way to fill our cup. And resourcing can generate a sense of power and agency when certain resources might be not available because of systemic conditions or current circumstances. So really seeing resourcing as a practice to fill our own cups, to provide that emotional safety, and to feel some sense of choice and agency over how we feel in any moment. So you might notice, those of you that got the email before this, which should be most people, there was in our resource folder, there's a handout attached, and that'll walk you through the process we're about to go through. But you can also feel free to just have a piece of paper nearby and follow along as I kind of guide us through. So what is a resource? A resource, in the way we're talking about it today, is anything that helps you to feel good, loved, strong, safe, sources of strength, of comfort, of positivity, and really acknowledging that we all have resources. In the context that we're speaking about here today, we all have resources. Some of them are inside of us and some are outside of us. So just taking a moment to skim the slide and notice if there's anything in either of these bubbles that you're surprised to see there. Maybe you didn't think of that as a resource, or anything that really resonates with you, like, yes, those are things that are resourceful to me. And I'll just use this as a reminder. You can always use the chat box if there's some reflection you want to share with us. So noticing that some internal resources might connect to, as Judy was saying, our ancestry, our heritage, things that have been passed down to us. It might even be good or neutral sensations in our body, really starting to lean into this idea that our bodies are full of resources to support our well-being, and that we're coming into more of a conscious relationship with that. Could be core values, things that you were proud of about yourself or like about yourself, right? Qualities, memories, And then looking at our external resources, music, art, our pets, our meaningful relationships. For some of us, our work is a resource. For some of us, our work is not a resource at the moment. And service and action, right? Contributing to communities that we care about. Also consider that a resource. So just taking a moment to notice what comes up for you as you think about where we're going next, which is thinking about some of your resources. So I'm gonna go a little slow here because I'm gonna ask for you to, if writing it down feels good, or maybe just sitting back and thinking feels good for right now. But to brainstorm for a moment some of your resources. What are some of your internal resources? What are some of your external resources? And then leaving that space in the middle for things that you're not really sure whether they're internal or external. And if anyone's having questions come up, this might be a time to share them in the chat box. And just as we give one another some space to process. I know for myself and for some of us, this has been a holiday week, and I found quite a lot of resource in the rituals and the gatherings that I was part of this week. That's what's coming to mind for me right now.
Michelle, I'm wondering if you can move the slide back so that we can see some of the prompts, knowing that you're asking at the crossover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And just naming that if 1 or 2 things come up for you, that's great. If 10 or 12 things come up for you, that's also great. It's really, it's not an exercise in quantity, just noticing what's rising to the surface for you right now. All right. So if you're still brainstorming, that's fine. We're gonna move forward, and you can move with us or move at your own pace. So the next thing I'm going to ask or invite you to do is to pick one of those resources that you listed, something that's standing out to you today, and take a moment to reflect. This might be a journaling, or it might just be sitting back and reflecting. How did this come to be a source of strength or love or safety or positivity in your life? What's the story of this resource? How did it come to you? How did you come to it? And what kinds of thoughts and feelings and experiences are associated with it? So in your reflection right now, I really encourage you to kind of dwell in your mind on this resource. And if there are any details that you can imagine, or even sense memories, colors, smells, tastes, I don't know what everyone's imagining, but thinking about in detail that resource. And even if you come up with just a couple details of it to focus on. Thank you for those of you who are sharing in the chat too. I'm noticing there's some resources that are kind of more feelings or concepts. Forgiveness, incredibly powerful. And then some external resources, our pets, nature. We're just taking a moment right now to spend some time in our minds and our imaginations with those things we've named as sources of strength for us, sources of comfort. Mhm. Chats with a toddler. That is a resource. I can see that. Really a lot of gratitude to people who are sharing their resources in the chat box. Just noticing what's happening in the world around us as a resource. So if you're really into your reflection, if this is feeling good, by all means, stay with it. And if you're with us, we're going to move forward. So I just will invite you to notice what's happening inside in your mind, in your emotions, in your body as you're reflecting on this resource. You might notice what's going on with your breathing. Maybe placing a hand on your heart if that feels good and noticing what that feels like. How are your muscles? How are you sitting? And any feelings or emotions or thoughts that are arising. And the reason for doing this is just to take a moment to notice what effect spending some time with that resource, even just in our imagination, what effect that might have on our bodies and on our feelings, our emotions. So for yourself to kind of, track that, maybe listing a few things you're noticing. All right. So on the handout, you'll notice at the bottom that there's a few ideas of resourcing practices that might be useful to you. And we're going to practice another one today. But if any of those ideas are useful to you, you can feel free to take them and adapt them to your needs. So just taking a moment in the chat box, if you'd like, sharing what this practice of resourcing was like for you. We'll just leave the moment open to hear from folks. Anything that's coming up. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you didn't like it, that's also always welcome. Yeah, insightful. Mm-hmm. Powerful, encouraging. Yeah, thanks for shouting out other people's shares. I love that too. Made me feel motivated to be a resource to others. Thanks, Leora. You certainly are. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Really kind of helping you focus in on things you might not consider that are present in your daily life. Yeah. Great. Well, feel free to keep your reflections coming. And I want to just affirm, and this has been said now a couple times, but we're doing it cyclically here. So just thinking about remembering that what we're doing right now might be called self-care, and that it's never a selfish act, as Parker Palmer says. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on this earth to offer others. So just really affirming the time you're taking to do these practices here today, and seeing that as a contribution as well. So I'm going to pass it to Judy for our next practice.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. I mean, I realized even in going through this practice right now with you just how fast I was speaking earlier. Wow, I felt like probably 2 espresso shots, and so I do want to apologize if I was going a little too fast for folks on the chat to follow. And so just, I'm really appreciative of this moment of connecting to my feelings and emotions in this moment now. So, so thank you for that. And so I think, you know, we want to come back to a practice that we explored the last couple of times we were here, which was a settling practice of like the breath. Michelle, can you go to the next slide? Just, okay, great. There it is. Maybe my internet's just a little slower. We're going to do a breathing practice just to kind of connect into our breath a little bit more intentionally. And we wanted to offer kind of when we do these settling practice, kind of a routine or kind of a flow that you might help you go through something when you notice that you have a need that's coming up, or that your body or your nervous system or your window of tolerance is like not really stretching much, and you're kind of following to hyperarousal. Hypoarousal.
T-shirts. Really?
Yeah. Hi.
Like we might have to be supporters. Ask them.
Okay. All right. So just notice. So when you kind of are in a moment there where you're noticing kind of, I'll say, you know, flipping my lid, or I'm feeling a little bit more taxed, just spending some time and some self-observation of what's going on and what is my body or my nervous system feeling at that moment might start giving you some cues about what you might be needing at that, you know, what kind of tool or strategy you could reach to that might help you feel better. And so by connecting and doing a self-observation, it really allows you to tune into those body parts or sensations in a much more mindful way. Based out of that kind of, you will determine what might work and what might not work. And so I wanted to name that if at any point, as for example, when we try the breathing exercise, you're feeling a sense of discomfort or unpleasantness, that you're free and encouraged to stop doing something that's not working for you. If you don't like it, if it doesn't feel good, that's okay, that you don't need to do it. And to also celebrate that you are aware of knowing that I don't like something, I don't, you know, like the way it's making me feel. And so it's important to celebrate that. And also stay curious, you know, try something new if that's helpful. And then as you're going through this period, and we'll do this at the end too, is just to check in if after doing something, just to come back and notice, was it helpful? How was it helpful? How am I feeling? What am I, you know, sensing? What am I thinking about now? And so we're just offering this flow as a good way to start noticing what works for you in a much more mindful way. Just kind of like what Michelle just did for us earlier, I realized, wow, I'm speaking really quickly. And so just maybe taking some deep breaths and slowing down can be helpful for me to calm my nervous system down a little bit. Okay. So we're going to try the settling breath once again. And so I want to invite you, if it's helpful, to kind of settle into whatever place you're in. If you're sitting down, maybe ground yourself a little bit more into the ground, or maybe relax your body a little bit more, leaning into your chair, maybe dropping or rotating your shoulders a little bit, moving your hips, if that's helpful. Just really feeling a sense of movement into your body a little bit more intentionally. And as you're doing this to make you feel better, whatever this is, for me, it helps to rotate my neck a little bit. I want for you to just start noticing your breath, meaning like just notice your breathing. Just let's start there and not get too ahead of ourselves of like what type of breathing or what type of rhythm do I need to do to feel well. But just simply notice we're breathing. And then slowly start noticing kind of your inhale. Are you inhaling maybe through your mouth or through your nose, whatever's feeling more comfortable for you? And noticing your exhales. And one thing you might notice as you go through this is that maybe you've spent a lot of time breathing up here on your chest, and that you maybe haven't spent a whole lot of time today or in the last hour breathing into your belly or making those breaths a little bit longer. So I want to invite you to Maybe try that if you haven't already, elongating your breath, going deeper into your chest and down into your belly if that's comfortable. And as you're elongating that breath as much as possible, remember to just make it as long as you feel comfortable. If at any point you start getting a little bit of nervousness or anxiousness, then just return to your regular breath. And if this is helpful, I want to invite you that in the next couple of breaths, you take in a deep breath. And if you could make your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale, that might be helpful for you. So give that a try. Okay, and we're just going to spend the next 30 seconds breathing at whatever point feels comfortable to you. Whatever thoughts may be coming into your mind right now, they're perfectly fine and invited. And in the last 15 seconds, I just want you to notice if there's any shifts in your body or your emotions. Do you feel more spaciousness anywhere? Are you feeling any kind of like pain or tension anywhere? Just start noticing a little bit more any sensations or emotions in your body. And so slowly, as you feel ready, kind of return back to whole group here. And if you took time to close your eyes or lower your gaze, maybe look up around your room, wherever you're located, looking around. Maybe the floor, maybe rotating your neck a little bit, shoulders. Maybe standing up if you've been sitting for too long and feeling like you need to wiggle something out. Or maybe if you have water nearby, which I do, maybe taking a drink of some water, that might be helpful as we move forward. So, all right. So with that, just to do some pause, connect, and reflect together if you're ready and wanting to. If you don't mind maybe sharing with me what that felt like in your body, practicing this mindful breathing. Was it helpful? What did you feel? Maybe something you thought about, whatever you might feel comfortable sharing there. And I see a couple of shares already. Yeah, that it's very relaxing, or it was very relaxing. I noticed that Cynthia's saying that yes, and to remember that some people relaxing can be a trigger too. So like just noticing that, you know, this practice can be helpful for someone. It might not be as helpful for someone else. That was probably referring to a comment earlier that I said. So Claudia, you enjoyed some silence. Angelina, you took notice that my body's more tense in certain areas. Yeah. And you need to be more kind to it. Oh, that's really kind to say that. Yeah. I think when Leora mentioned earlier about how we're expected to just produce and to do more, we tend to forget really of ourselves and our body, and to be kinder or more tender to ourselves. And put your mind at ease, Kristen, relaxing, a reminder. Yeah, that this can be done anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, really this tool is just offered when you can, when you're able to reach to it, just to take a couple of moments, a couple of minutes, wherever you might be, to settle your body and your nervous system by doing some mindful breathing. Of course, I want to also note that sometimes you're not able to do that because the situation, the context that you're in might be requiring you to have a different reaction, to take care of your first immediate needs, to seek safety, right? To fight, to flee, or to freeze. That's also welcomed and okay. So make sure you know that. And then as you're noticing and as you're able eventually to kind of come to a place where you can really start regulating your nervous system a little bit, or checking in, that self-observation that we talked about earlier, you'll start noticing, it might be helpful for me to do some deep breathing, some mindful breathing, but it might also be helpful, like I just need to get up and go on a walk, or move my body, or cook something, or call my best friend, or pet my dog, or whatever you might need. Those are all really good strategies and tools. And that, like Michelle said earlier, we have all the internal resourcing and even the external resourcing that we can reach to help support us through a difficult time, or in a moment of distress. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you for everyone that was sharing. That was really helpful. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and your sharing that. So thank you. And as we kind of wrap up here with this simple and yet, short, practice for today, I wonder if for integration and reflection, you might share by writing down, maybe in a little note. And if you feel called to, share it also in the chat if that's helpful. What's one phrase or a few words that you can use to anchor your wellness this week? And we suggested, if you have a Post-it note or a sticky note, maybe writing that. And I have a bunch of sticky notes on my computer as reminders of like what I want to focus on. I have one here that says go slow to go fast. And then I realized I need to slow down a little bit, right? So just think about it, write it down, and we invite you to put it on the fridge or on your car, wherever. You might see it every day as a reminder. So what are you looking forward to next Wednesday when we come back together? And I hope you do come back and together next Wednesday. What do you want to focus on a little bit more? What do you want to anchor in for next week, okay? Throughout this week, I'm sorry. This too shall pass. Yeah. Try to be present. Being in the moment. Yes. That was my grandfather's favorite saying. Breathe and move. Reduce expectations of productivity of self. Yes. Just breathe. Simplify, structure, engage. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. Okay. It's okay not to be okay, and one day at a time. Yeah. One of the things my mom says a lot, and I often repeat it, is poco a poco como le entra el agua al coco. That's in Spanish, saying little by little, like the water comes inside the coconut. I hope that made sense. Just, it takes time, so it's okay to be slow and to take time with it. Take time to be aware and present and remain calm. Yeah. Well, I definitely hope it's helpful. I hope that you can carry this out for the next, couple of days until we see ourselves again, reminding ourselves that it's a practice and not a product, and that it's not about being right or wrong, and it's just about being and staying with that, whatever feels comfortable for you.
Thank you, Judy. So as we move to close, we have a few more things. Leora's got a few important announcements at the end, but just wanting to affirm our takeaways for you, the things that we hope at least you take these away, that settling your nervous system, even just the tiniest bit, is self-care. And that in times of distress, we can learn to call in our resources for stability and balance, and that we have resources. And really important that wellness is not a journey meant to be made alone, that we need each other to make meaning. And that's what we hope to do here during these Wednesday sessions, and that we hope that you're able to find ways to do in your own communities, in your lives, in your families, really recognizing that we need one another to do this work. And so as we as we move to the end, I know people have been really great with the chat box today. So final chat box activity, just a one-word summary of your experience during this session. These words mean a lot to us, honestly, to just get that little snapshot of what this was for you. So one word in the chat box, it can be about the content, it can be about emotions that were evoked from today. Calming, thankful, relief, present, pensive, enlightening. Oh no. I don't know what that means, but I want to know. Supportive, respite. Balance. Thank you. Thank you. Reset. Beautiful. Well, keep those words coming, and I'm going to pass it back to Leora to take us to a close.
Thank you. So I just want to share with everyone my Post-it, and my motto this week will be lead for and with resourcing. That's going to be my centering for this week, to be a resource, but also to take time to recognize my resources, which is both the Meaning Makers Collective and, quite frankly, all of you. I know that some of us haven't met in person, but it's been, I don't think I expected when we launched these Wellness Wednesdays of the amount of resourcing that it provides to see the same names and to have this be a ritual in a time that feels so unpredictable and uncertain, to have these times together. So I just want to note that and note that all of you have been a support for me, so I can continue to support you. Thank you. Thank you to Judy and Michelle, always at the Meaning Makers Collective. Follow them, follow us. We've got a ton of other things coming up. And we also have a lot of space to provide in response to your needs. So I really want to name, actually, Michelle, if you can go back one, I want to name that you can email us, you can sign up for our newsletter, you can call us, you can ping. Just please let us know what we can do, both in the response space in this time and also in the support space in this time. Those two things are quite different often in our leadership, both response and support. So I want to hold both of those and know that we've got a good amount of resources. Oh, maybe if you can mute yourself. Thank you. We've got a lot of resources to help that move forward. So Michelle, if you can move forward, I want to name that we did, as some of you are noticing in the chat box, that we moved it up an hour. So hopefully that feels better for some folks. I know 3 p.m. is, that's a long day for many of us. So next week, same time, the week after that, same time, and then we're going to do another check-in, and we're going to see, hey, do y'all want to continue this through May? And then we'll see where that goes. So please, part of the survey that will go to you afterwards is, and I'm actually going to obviate this because you can't get the survey right now, but it's going to come into your email afterwards, and I'm really going to invite you to take it and fill it out so that we can get feedback, and you can also let us know, like, what's working, what would you like more of, what would you like differently. Oh, there's Carrie. So Carrie just put in the chat box, the Survey Monkey, the new feature of Zoom is that you can't copy and paste from a chat. So I just want to note that you're going to see lots of numbers. You'll get it in your email thereafter, and then you'll be able to give us some feedback. And on that note, I am going to invite you to access the resources and supports that are going to come your way. We'll see you next Wednesday. Michelle, Judy, and I will stay on if you have questions or just want to say hi, a voice hi. And I'm going to slow my voice down too. I'm going to wish you all a resourced and supportive rest of your Wednesday, April 15th. We're so grateful to be in community with you, near and far. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.